I made an offhanded comment as though I was rubbing my eyes and surprised that Nebraska might be in the mix for Dylan Raiola. But if you've been following the Dylan Raiola saga, or even the Cover 3's podcast discussion of Dylan Raiola commitment news, watch, live stream, we have always looked at the family connections that were there at Nebraska. We have also been a little bit critical of the offensive staff otherwise, beyond family connections at Nebraska. He is a player who, transfers across the country, goes to Buford. This is his fourth high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if he does commit to Nebraska, flipping from Georgia, it would be his third different commitment throughout the recruiting process. But where are the winds blowing on this one? What's going on here?
Guys, we got the spatula out for this one. He is officially on
spatula or hibachi spatula. Right
Look at
there.
that. Yeah. That's yeah. My wife got me a Blackstone. It's kind of one of those things like you think you'd never
love.
I wouldn't use this, dude. Yeah, that is really, really solid. And I kind of kicking myself for not buying one earlier. If you guys are on the fence, that's free advertising. Probably shouldn't do that. Ad team, get on that. I think
get us all free ones. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Look, Raiola is a really talented kid. If we weren't going to hold the 4 high schools thing against him before, I don't think we should now. And it's a major get for Nebraska if they do pull it off, which at this point I would kind of expect him to do. Right? I think you can kind of read the tea leaves here. If you've been watching our Tuesday shows where we had Cooper Patagna and Andrew Ivins on, and Ivins has been saying like there are a good number of guys on Georgia's staff, and this is back to October, who like Ryan Puglisi just as much, if not better, than Raiola. So that's their other quarterback recruit in the class. Also, I think the likelihood that Carson Beck is coming back probably plays into this. Raiola's dad was an All-American, like total stud at Nebraska. His uncle is the offensive line coach there. By the way, he just got a big time extension and raise. So
yeah,
so weird.
325 to 500.
Huh.
Nice little raise.
Like, am I confident in Nebraska's offensive staff, especially with the offensive coordinator situation? No, clearly not. Like, I think we covered this over the summer. The track record there is horrid. But getting a player of this talent can change things, especially if they get Kyle McCord coming in, who I think is probably pretty likely in Nebraska at this point. Like maybe he sits for 1 year, takes over afterwards. And he is the level of talent that allows Nebraska to elevate where it hasn't been if he hits. And I think there is some chance that he hits there.
So you think he's going to be okay going and sitting behind Kyle McCord?
I think the pathway to playing time at Nebraska is way more wide open than at Georgia.
Agreed with that. Do you think this is the best use of Nebraska's funds?
Yes, because I don't think Nebraska is seriously in it for an elite quarterback if they didn't have the family connections. So if you have the opening, you have to like if you have the whole cards, you're reading them, you got to go all in.
So I don't know. I don't know how good Dylan Raiola is, but I'll ask you this: if Bryce Young wouldn't have gone to Bama and would have gone to Nebraska with Scott Frost, do you think that changes the trajectory of Nebraska? Like my point being, like. I get it's the most important position of the game, but you still have to have some talent around you. And I guess that's where it would be like, is there enough talent around him? Like clearly, if you go to Georgia and you're the top tier, you are going to be in the national championship hunt, but you're also going to have 4 and 5-star talent on the offensive line, at receiver, everywhere around you. So your chances of success are going to be pretty high. Nebraska, I think there's a higher bust rate potential because you're going to be asked to carry a lot of that load. It's it's not that different than Dante Moore going to UCLA, like where he was asked early to go in there and, he makes some freshman mistakes. All of a sudden he's written off and he's in the portal again. I don't know. I just think like if you were allocating funds, I feel like you'd be better off, whatever the number is, of buying 5 players that are all really, really good players along the offensive line, defensive line, a good receiver, and then getting like a 4-star quarterback who can be pretty solid over just counting on this. Maybe I have enough to spend to where it's all taken care of. But I think it was fascinating.
Considering what I'm hearing about buzz with Nebraska transfers, I think they're doing both.
Yeah. I think Nebraska's got plenty of money. I don't think the issue is funds. I think the issue is opportunity. How many times is Nebraska truly going to be in it for a 5-star quarterback? I would I mean, basically 0 times in like the last 5 years. And if I had to guess, probably 0 times in the next 5 years. So if you have a chance to get a guy that has the tools that Raiola has, I think you have to go do it.
You mentioned earlier we're not holding the 4 high schools against him. Should we be? Because
No, I'm saying if we weren't doing it when he was going to Georgia, I don't think we should do it now.
But I'm saying, should we have been? Because like, is this just anecdotal, or is there kind of a correlation of like the guys who go through like 5 high schools and then multiple commitments tend to not work out?
It definitely doesn't seem to help in our just anecdotal sort of let's remember some dudes who did.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of different reasons why this happens. And I'm pretty hesitant to hold it against kids if you can dig into the reasons, right? Like sometimes you have a really unstable parenting situation.
I was going to say, like,
where
that could be a family type
like,
thing. The
some of these
decisions
kids'
are
home life
guided
are
by
rough, man.
parents, and then you get to college, and then maybe when you're on your own, you've got a chance to grow a little bit.
Right, exactly. And especially in this year's class, right? So you have some of these guys who moved due to like their season being canceled due to COVID, or their parents switched jobs, right? And I think that was 2 of the situations here with Raiola. So that's kind of a unique one. We also see kids who, I mean, just to be frank, like, especially if it's like a single parent home, like you're getting evicted, right? Like you're going to live with family members in a different county. Now you have to move schools, and like that happens quite often. Like not everybody's home situation is super stable. So is it something to take note of? Yeah, for sure. Is it a little bit predictive? I think so, but not. I don't think it's like the be all end all. There's definitely examples of guys who have been at multiple schools and have done well. Quarterbacks, maybe not so much.
There are varied reactions from the Georgia side of this, right? And everything from
good, we don't need them. Saved us a headache. That's my favorite.
It is varied. I've seen a wide range of responses, including what Lincoln may have that Athens doesn't. And maybe his own personal tastes are more towards that. Who knows? But I like this note from Seth Emerson at the
steak.
Seth Emerson over at the Athletic threw this all together. I mean, it just like condenses it. Since Smart became head coach, he has seen 4 other 5-star quarterbacks, Jacob Eason, Justin Fields, JT Daniels, and Brock Vandegrift, transfer after getting beat out by Jake Fromm again, Stetson Bennett, and Carson Beck. If you're Georgia and it's like, sure, go ahead. Like what the plan has been working just fine. And Bud, to your earlier point, like how many 5-stars has Nebraska been in? How many 5-stars will Nebraska be in the mix for? And then let's go to the Georgia side. How many 5-stars has Georgia had even leave the team? And how many 5-stars will Georgia be able to sign, in the next 5 years? It does feel a little bit like a situation where not to go full fine, we don't even need them, but the way that things have played out on the recruiting trail and then translated on the field, which by the way, they've had a top 10 scoring and total offense each of the last 3 seasons. What are you going to do there? Like, I'm not going to say that this is some big picture sign of the times for the Georgia Bulldogs if they do end up losing Dylan Raiola to Nebraska.
Concur. Yes. Georgia's offensive line class is also better than like the next 2 or 3 best offensive line classes put together. So like no joke on that. So they're going to be absolutely perfectly fine. In my opinion. They also have some young studs in the 25 and 26 class who seem to like them a lot. And if they're right about Puglisi, like the staff's feeling on Puglisi about how good he is, I mean, there's some chance that Raiola gets beaten out at Georgia.
Are we going
the path to playing time at Nebraska is much clearer?